What's up, everyone? Welcome into DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined today by Tim Neverett, play-by-play announcer for the Los Angeles Dodgers, also author of a new book that's come out, Coveted Curveball. Tim, we appreciate your time today. How's the offseason treating you?
The off season's been, I don't know, a little slow, I guess. Considering there was no plans for a parade this year, but that's how it goes sometimes. Now, you can't win them every year,
Yeah.
but it's been good. I mean, it's been good to just kind of reconnect and slow down a little bit. And, in a little while, a few weeks, we just really start thinking a lot about baseball and a lot about the Dodgers and about what's going to happen for spring training and from then on. So usually right around Christmas time, maybe a couple of days after Christmas, you start shifting into full baseball mode. So we're almost there.
Love it. Love it. Well, like I said to you before we came on, I normally I would ask you some questions about everything going on, but as we record this, stuff is happening so quickly that it's almost foolish to ask. So I'd love to focus just a little bit on your career, what it's like to be a broadcaster and that type of thing. You've been with the Dodgers for the past few seasons. Obviously, you have seen nothing but unparalleled success, it seems like, for this franchise. What's it like to be part of a group that has experienced the level of success that the Dodgers have over the past few years?
Well, it's very special because not everybody in this business gets to be around a franchise like the Dodgers. I've got a lot of friends that I've worked with and that I've come to know around baseball who, haven't sniffed the playoffs in a long time.
Yeah.
Never mind a division title. But the Dodgers expect to win, and that's a great thing. That's a great thing to be around. I can remember, and this is no disrespect to one of the franchises I was with before, but their motto was, let's try to get to 500. And that's not really the way you should approach a major league season. Let's not be 500. I don't want to be 81-81. I want to be around a team that wants to win. And I think everybody does. And I'm really lucky that I'm with the Dodgers and I've seen a lot of winning. I mean, even in the shortened season, 2 seasons ago, it was a ton of winning. Last year, a lot of winning. The Giants, their smoke and mirrors show. I don't know how they did it, but they did it, and they saw a lot of winning too. Even though the Dodgers were playing at a breakneck pace and winning, nearly a record number of games again. So it's just very special, not only to be around teams that win, but to be around a franchise with such great history and such great people that have been a major part of it for so many years.
Yeah. And what's fascinating from my perspective, looking at your career, is the ability to switch between radio and TV, which is kind of what you do. Obviously, for those that listen to the radio and those that watch on TV, those are two dramatically different experiences, one of which the TV guy can rely on your ability to see what is going on, whereas the play-by-play guy can't. So how do you sort of seamlessly shift between those two? I mean, is it like, do you have to get yourself in a completely different headspace from one to the other?
You do. In fact, during the season, I'm actually I teach at a college in Boston, Emerson College. I'm a professor there, and I'm actually teaching that right now. The differences between radio and television. And just earlier this week, we were doing an exercise where I had them look into a camera. They had the format written on the board in front of them, and I would be the producer talking in their ear, talking over, so that they would not be interrupted. And it's an exercise you have to go through to learn, because I think a lot of people, when they start doing television, they'll hear the producer go, hey, say this next. And I've seen this a million times where the person will go, okay, like on the air. They'll say, yep, or acknowledge the producer, which is kind of funny. But on radio, it's a different deal. So the latest assignment I've given the class is to do a game open, one for television, one for radio, same conditions, same game, same storylines at the beginning, but show me how you do it differently. So they're learning how to do it now, and it is very different. The radio side is something I started with many, many years ago. I really got a break in AAA because when I was in Las Vegas, we did both radio and TV for a number of the years that I was there. So we learned how to go back and forth and worked with a producer with a lot of major league experience who helped us out. And that helped me get the Pittsburgh Pirates job, because that was a job where half the games you do on TV, half the games you do on radio, and literally it's every other day.
Wow.
So it's not, you have this series and I have that series. It's every other day. So for the Dodgers situation, it worked out very, very well because I can jump back and forth. And if you listen to me one night on radio, it's a totally different thing that I do the next night on TV.
Yeah. Do you have a preference between the two? I mean, do you find yourself, you said radio was kind of where you started. Is that your first love, or do you enjoy TV more?
I've had that question about 5 million times, Jeff.
I bet.
And I really don't have a good answer to it yet. I like them both. I think as long as you have great analysts, it makes it a harder decision to make. And I have that when I work with Oral Hershiser and Nomar Garciaparra on television, or, obviously on radio with Rick Monday. It makes it pleasurable to be in there because they're ready, they're prepared, and we're going to have conversation, for at least 9 innings of baseball. So, and a lot of it's organic. A lot of it's, not set up or anything. It's about what we're talking about in the game, and try to bring up some stories and try to relate to the audience. But you have to do it in a much different way on radio than you do on TV.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is, obviously your situation with the Dodgers is unique because a lot of it is dependent on Joe Davis and sort of the other commitments that he has. I'm curious what your schedule looks like. I mean, because sometimes I'm guessing for Joe, he's not finding out his next assignment until, days or maybe a week beforehand. So what does your schedule look like during the season as far as how early do you find out TV versus radio?
It's interesting because he sort of knows the weekends that he's going to be blocked out. So we'll actually get a full season schedule for everybody in a typical season. We'll get it in late January.
Wow.
And that includes spring training games. So we'll know ahead of time.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't know the actual games ahead of time. And sometimes they get added. And there have been many times when, someone has come to me and said, hey, we got to move you over here this weekend because Joe's got this, or we got to take you off of radio, put you on TV because Joe's got to go here. And, from my standpoint, I'm like, all right, whatever. I mean, as long as I'm doing something, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
But it's good for him. A funny story, Jeff. I had at the All-Star game, we were doing a book event right near Coors Field, and some Dodger fans from New Mexico came up to me and they said they were mad at Joe Davis. And I said, why? And they said, well, because he takes too much time off. And I said, wait a minute. I said, you're talking to the guy who fills those dates.
Yeah. First of all, that's an insult to you, not to Joe Davis.
I said, I get the score right also. So, but I said, you should be happy for the guy. He's a young guy in the business.
Yeah.
He's got a young family. He's doing the absolute best he can career-wise and for his family. And if people say, well, we want him here this weekend, well, you know what? Be happy that he's doing something else.
Yeah.
Because, the guy who did it for 67 years did a lot of something else that people forget. I mean, he did the NFL, he did golf, he did,
totally.
Vin did a lot of extra stuff. And because he was good. People liked him. And, people like Joe, so they want him a part of what's going on at Fox. And I think that gives him a lot of credibility. But you can't be there every single day. Can't be in 2 places at one time. And neither can I. So neither can anybody.
Yeah.
So I think people should be happy for him when he's off. Because he's not off. He's working.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The idea that he takes too much time off is, it's like, well, if you pay attention, he's actually working more than most. Yeah.
Funny story. Last year, we were both doing games on the same day for FS1, college basketball game. He was doing, I think, Michigan, Indiana, and I was doing Nevada, Boise State. And his game was right before mine. I didn't know he was doing that game. He didn't know I was doing the game. And the last thing that they give you is a card, a sign-off card. Yeah. And they say, okay, here's the deal. Now we're going to take you to Reno, Nevada, Boise State. Here's Doug Gottlieb and Tim Neverett. So he read it cold, didn't know I was doing the game. So he threw to me in Nevada, and I hear his voice throwing to me. I'm like, okay, that's so kind of funny. But he and I have chatted about that a little bit. But that was a fun surprise we had last winter.
One last question on that dynamic. I mean, Joe, because Joe is there most of the time, when you step in, do you feel a need to be similar to him in some ways? Do you feel a need to be different? Because, I mean, the one sort of quote unquote nice thing about him having other responsibilities is, I mean, listening to the same voice 162 times in about 175 days, it feels like, I mean, that could be a lot. So do you feel a sense of having to to react to how he does anything, or are you just kind of straight down the middle? This is what I do, and they've hired me for this to be this person.
I mean, I was doing it for a long time
Yeah.
in the past, and I'm just continuing to do what I do. Plus, I think about when Vin stepped down, and the advice he gave Joe pretty publicly is, be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't try to be. And I think the underlying tone was, don't try to be
Totally.
Vin. He can't be Vin.
Yeah.
No one can be. I mean,
Yeah.
he's tremendous. But no, I think I just do it the way I do it. I do it differently, as we talked about, on radio than I do on TV. But I look for different things. I look for certain things. I like to involve the analyst a lot. I'm just calling it the way that I learned how to do it a while ago, and the way that I continue to try to learn to do it, and it's been working. So, what's funny is that when I first started, people's like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
What's he doing in there? You get all these nasty notes from people on social media. And then, by the third year, I wasn't getting those nasty notes anymore, so they get used to you, and it just takes a little while for people to understand who you are, what your background is, and why you're there.
Yeah. Okay. One last announcer question before we get to the book, because I am really curious to hear about the book. I think one thing that you had a couple calls that started to make the rounds on social media, some home run calls, some nicknames, that type of thing. As an announcer, when you're calling a home run in the ninth inning and AJ Pollock hits a home run, like, are those pre-thought of, like, I've got written down what I'm going to say or what the nickname I'm going to go to is? Like, how much thought goes into that, and how much, because I imagine a lot of it is just sort of spur of the moment, but at the same time, you don't want to just be all spur of the moment, because who knows what's going to happen. So how do you navigate that as an announcer when it's a big moment and a guy hits a ball deep, and you don't want to be the guy that calls home run when it's a fly ball, and you don't want to be the guy that sort of undersells the home run at the same time? That's a tricky balance.
Especially calling them off of a TV screen.
No, completely.
You don't know all the time. So that's why when we're in person, it's a different deal. I just think it's fun to do that. I think, I think players like that when they hear a nickname or something. I've had that experience in the past where you just throw something out there and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
I had one that really came off the cuff this year, and people had a little question mark on it because I don't think anybody got it. Is Max Muncy hit a home run, and I said, "Gone, Daddy, gone," because he was a new dad, and I used the Violent Femme song, and I thought that was appropriate at that time. But I think people of a certain age said, "What did he say?"
Yeah.
But sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and it's like I don't write anything down like that. I don't, I know that, like, for example, AJ Pollock, his nickname's Paulo, right?
Yeah.
And he wears number 11.
Yeah.
So I just thought, put the two together, and the first time I said that, I think I only said it twice. But the first time I said it, I figured, well, what's natural after that? We have liftoff.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a big time. It was in the
it was a big moment.
1+4 game. Yeah, 1+4 game, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sometimes they just come out. Max Muncy, I got that idea from Dieter Rule, the organist.
Okay, there you go. He's
I
thinking
heard him
music.
one time playing the Beatles on the organ when Max would come to the plate. Maxwell's Silver Hammer. Right. So I started using that, and I've had a lot of people say things to me positively about that.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I mean, I just said it one time out of the blue because I happened to hear it the previous time at bat.
Yeah.
I happened to hear it through the microphones. I thought, whatever, it stuck in my head. But
that's awesome.
I don't write things down. I don't take suggestions from people. I don't, I do know announcers that do that kind of thing, but sometimes I don't know. If it comes up, it comes up. But I just want to make it fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll cross out all the suggestions I was going to make to you off the air, and
Okay,
I'll just leave those out there. Let's talk about this book, Coveted Curveball: An Inside View of the 2020 Los Angeles Dodgers World Championship Season. I mean, the title does a great job of kind of summing up, I imagine, what you're trying to accomplish with this book. You had a unique perspective. There it is. You had a unique perspective on this particular season as a guy who was there, sort of, right, as much as somebody could have been there during COVID. Yeah. So why don't you give us a little bit of a taste of what's inside of that book, just so people get a sense of what they would be purchasing?
I think it gives you an idea of what it is that the season was like. Granted, everybody had a lot of hardships during the course of the year. Everybody had a lot of problems during the course of the year, health and otherwise, financially. We got to go watch baseball. So
Yeah.
don't feel bad for us. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that, we had such hardship because we could only go to 3 or 4 places. And you had all these protocols to follow. But it gives you an idea of what it took to put on a Major League Baseball season, and one where a team wins the World Series at the end. So there's no spoiler at the end. They still win the World Series at the end of the book. But it was it was an eventful year in a lot of ways. And you get the question all the time, well, should there be an asterisk? And I say absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because this was a tougher year to go through in 2020 than last year.
Yeah.
We still had protocols. The broadcasters still weren't traveling. We still had, testing available. We still had all kinds of things that were similar, but we also had more freedom. They allowed us back on the field. If you were vaccinated, you could have face-to-face access with players and coaches where we didn't in 2020.
Yeah.
It made the job very difficult to do the way you'd normally prepare yourself for a day's broadcast and for a season. One thing about it is that, Oral Hershiser did the forward.
That's awesome.
And it's a really good forward. He takes you from 1988 to 2020, from the moment he's on the mound getting ready to throw that last pitch to Oakland, and what he was thinking, and he stepped off for a second and looked around, took it all in. He describes what was in his mind at that point. So it's a real neat, look at Oral and in his version of what went on and how he kind of bridges it to, what, winning the MVP for Corey Seager would mean for him for the rest of his life, and what it's meant to Oral, and, the addition of Mookie Betts and all these things. The play of Cody Bellinger. He goes into a lot of different things, but Oral wrote a very, very in-depth and very good forward in the book. But, there's a lot of other stories in there, personal baseball stories I have in there, like, former Dodger Alex Cora, who's now the manager of the Red Sox, something he did for me.
Not the most popular guy in Dodger land, but
no,
at one point he was.
No, but it was something he did for me. I think that people would be pleasantly surprised about. Something Mookie Betts did for me after hard family time. We had loss in my family, and both guys stepped up, and
that's awesome.
Just kind of gives you the personal side of players, that they're not machines.
Yeah.
They're actually people that care.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other things in there as well about, some of the stories during the COVID time, like in Los Angeles, what was happening, what was happening around the country, civil unrest, and what that meant to baseball at that time. We had boycotted games.
Yeah.
I mean, when have we ever had that?
Yeah. Do you have, is there a favorite sort of on-field story? I mean, again, I know on-field is the wrong term to use because there was no on-field for you, with the announcers being separated. But is there a story that you tell in the book that might be new to fans, even the most rabid fans who are so in-depth connected to this team?
Yeah, there's a few, but one of them that sticks out is, I think everybody remembers what it was like when the Astros came to Dodger Stadium with a full house for those 2 games. Well, don't forget, in 2020, they also came to Dodger Stadium for 2 games with an empty house.
Yeah.
What was that like? What was going on during batting practice in the skies above Dodger Stadium? There's a lot of different things that went on. Why was there so much extra security? Why were there police escorts for the Astros buses? What were the people protesting at Gate A?
Yeah.
Sunset Gate, there's a lot of weird things that went on when the Astros came in for a 48-hour period. It was bizarre. It really was. And, there's some other weird things that happened on the field as well, because you could hear everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you normally can't.
Right.
So the guys they started to figure it out pretty quickly that if they didn't want to get embarrassed or get written about on social media in the wrong ways, they needed to kind of clam up, and, there was a lot of this going on, and a lot more of it than normal.
Yeah. Unless you were Jock Peterson.
Jock didn't care.
No, him and Walker, I don't think cared too much about what was heard from their mouths.
Nah, probably not. Bueller heard quite a bit. It reminded me of 2019 in Tampa Bay when there was nobody in the stadium and Rich Hill pitched.
Yeah.
And, I saw Rich the next morning in the hotel lobby. I walked up to him laughing and I said, I said, interesting night last night with nobody there. He goes, oh my God, my phone's been blowing up. They heard every word I said. I said, yeah, so did we.
That's amazing. Yeah, Tampa was well prepared. Maybe that's why Tampa Bay was so good. They were well prepared for empty
Yeah,
stadiums.
they were prepared.
So awesome. Well, Tim, we appreciate the time. You can find Tim at Tim Neverett on Twitter. Let folks know where they can find the book. And I know you've been offering sort of a special deal through your Twitter. So let people know where they can find it and what you've got going on.
Yeah, it's at Tim Neverett on Twitter. That's the easiest way to go. You can get me on Instagram as well and Facebook. And because of the lack of book signings at bookstores, we've been offering them on social media. So if you DM me, just direct message me. My DMs are open, and just say you'd like a signed copy of the book. We can get you a signed, customized copy of the book. And we still have some spots left. For Christmas, for the holidays here, if you get one in the next few days, pretty soon. I'm not sure when we're cutting it off, but we're going to offer a free Zoom session too.
Okay.
So it'll be a book event. You'll get the book. If you want to buy it for somebody, you can give them the Zoom session as well. But we'll get back to everybody, give them the Zoom address, and then we'll talk about the books. We'll talk about the Dodgers. We'll talk about spring training coming up, and we'll have a Zoom session along with the book available for the holidays.
Awesome. Well, Tim, we appreciate the time. Everybody go check out this book. Find Tim on social media. And if you can't find him, find me, and I can point you in the right direction. But Tim, enjoy. You got a couple more months of relaxation before we really ramp this thing up and get going with spring training. So enjoy the next couple months off, and we'll see you once the season starts.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, have a good one.